Andrew McCART, IFL TV in association with MTK Global. I'm here in Liverpool. Just had the press conference for Callum Smith versus John Ryder. You said you made this fight on Friday?
Yeah.
Well, talk to me about the fight.
Great fight. I mean, look, I wanted to get a load of stick for not bringing World Championship boxing to Saturday night fight night, so I dug my heels in. It was expensive, but I just felt that the World Boxing Super Series was so good for Callum in that it got him a World Championship. He made a lot of money, but slightly went off the radar for someone who's won a World Championship. So this is all about, I think rebuild's the wrong word because he's number one in the division, but just cementing that profile and gearing him up for some massive fights in 2020. On the other side, when we're doing that, and just being blatantly honest, when you're up against it financially for a show on a Saturday night fight night, you try and find an opponent that's not too lumpy, right? As in his purse.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, if we do that, we're kind of going against what we try and do. You want to give him a homecoming, but you want to give him a shit fight against someone that just doesn't cost you as much as a good fight. Then with the WBA, they ordered a mandatory against John Ryder, and we had an opportunity for both guys to pass on that fight. You know, do you want to pass on it now, do it next year? And Callum Smith said, look, I think it's a good fight. You know, John Ryder's on a great run. For Ryder, you know, the reason he's worked this mandatory position is to get a shot at the world title. Anything can happen in boxing. So then I thought, well, I know that if I'm making a big domestic fight, at least, we're going to sell out the arena, there's going to be even more interest. So stop being a tight bastard, Hearn, stick your dough in. So that's what I did, and now we've got a really good domestic fight. And I've seen some of the comments, you know, like, oh, it's a mismatch, is this and that. Wow, like, if you'd have seen some of the guys I was going to get, you know, they were mismatches. This is a good fight. He's mandatory challenger. He's on a great run, 4 stoppage wins. You know, Jamie Cox, Patrick Nielsen, he was number 1 with the WBA at the time. I think 2 with the WBA. He knocked him out, knocked out Jamie Cox, knocked out Sorokin, who was an unbeaten Russian, which was a final eliminator for the WBA. And then he went out, he was supposed to fight Lemieux, ended up fighting Akawai, who's like Golden Boy's top young prospect, on their card in Las Vegas. Like, he was thrown in that fight. He took it, he took the money, believed he could win, and he destroyed him. He hasn't been sailing through these fights. Every 4 of those fights, he has destroyed the opposition. So this is the time for him. Confidence through the roof. And I was joking up there because, you know, Charlie Sims and Tony Sims were saying to me, oh, do you know this Callum Smith? I don't know if we want this fight, blah, blah, blah. John, you know, it's a tough fight for John. As soon as we did the deal, Charlie went to me, oh, he's going to be so happy. He wants this fight so bad, he believes he can win. So, you know, we've got a kid out of London coming up to Liverpool to try and beat the best super middleweight in the world, to try and win the WBC Diamond, WBA Super, Ring Magazine World Championship, John Ryder. Yep. You know, and don't forget his pedigree. Great fight with Joe Saunders, John Ryder had, you know, for the British middleweight title. Great momentum. But also, Callum made a good point up there. I'm on a good run as well, you know, and he is. He's coming off a great victory against George Groves and also looked great against Hassan and Dam at MSG. So Callum Smith is, again, as I said up there, when I mention his name to people, he's not one that people are jumping to fight because he's huge at super middleweight. He is, just rather slimmer. So it's going to be a great fight, great card as well. Great to see Pricey back on and talk like that. And you know, I remember what I said. I bumped into him in Ibiza. Literally, I was outside this beach club on the phone, and I thought, hey, I looked over. It's this big lump that's come over, and we just started talking. He sort of said, look, like, to give you the background, basically, Pricey's always been that guy who's gone, look, whatever the biggest fight you could get me, just call me, call MTK, and let's get it made. So he did that against Povetkin. Kuzmin, he took on like 10 days notice, which for a lot of money, right? Lost both those fights. Then came back and said, look, quite like to get a win, you know, and I always give him opportunities because I really like the man, classy individual. Box Tom Little, won there. Box Cash Alley up here, right? And that was a good fight, but obviously he got bitten, but he won the fight. Then the Dave Allen fight. And he just said to me, you know what, Ed, I feel like my confidence is up now and I'm improving. And if I can keep this run going, I think I'm going to be really dangerous in the division. So, you know, that next fight, you know, my instructions after the Dave Allen fight was from MTK, see what's out there for Pricey, get him the biggest fight, you know, let us know. Then it was like, no, let's still have a proper fight, but let's just start improving, keep improving the confidence and work towards either a world title fight or you know, one of those big guys, whether it's Dillian White, whether it's Chisora, whether it's Povetkin, you know, whether it's Usyk, who knows, like that, those kind of level guys. And I quite admired that, because that showed me anything can happen in this game. You know, he's going to fight a decent level guy on the November 23rd, not a Povetkin or those kind of guys. Well, you don't think he can get knocked out by one of those guys? Of course he can, that's the risk. But now he's willing to say, no, I'm going to take less money to develop my career again and actually try and take this opportunity. That's very risky, but I like that, and that says that he has a lot of confidence in what he's doing. And he's another guy like Callum Smith, because don't forget, I represent probably 13 or 14 in the top 20 in the world at heavyweight. When I say David Price, they're like, oh, you know, punches a bit, doesn't it? No, but like what, you know, if I beat David Price, everyone says you should have beaten David Price, and if he chins me out of nowhere, my career's fucked. So not many, and I want Pricey to know that, because I want him to start believing in himself. And he's so popular, so popular. You know, you see it in the arenas, you know, like people love David Price because he's a trier. And Britons love a trier. Get down, you get back up again. And you'll see November 23rd, the reception for Pricey will be massive.
Well, see, before I ask my next question, every time I'm watching you, I'm just thinking of no context.
I know,
and I've got
it's terrible. Because I was in Waitrose at the weekend. I was in the great thing about no context HEARN, it's like people think that they're two different people, right? So, because you got me, who's not overly popular, gets booed, and then you got no context HEARN, who's a legend, right? A social legend, and I'm like, guys, we're the same people. Do you know what I mean? Like, can we get some of that popularity over to my side? But I've noticed when I've gone on to No Context HEARN and I've looked at the account, I've gone on to a couple of followers that have posted the clips of me. They don't follow me, right? So they don't even know who I am.
I seen one today saying, a woman saying, who is this guy? Why is he all over my time?
I know.
I was like, you don't know who it is?
I know. But I guess that's a good thing. But he's hilarious. Someone said to me the other day, I had two people come up to me in Waitrose in Billericay going, you're that guy on the memes. I'm like, oh, fucking hell. But then...
It's made you famous.
Yeah, but someone said to me, oh, does it piss you off? I went, no, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. You've got to take it with a pinch of salt. I think it's hilarious. Yeah, but I'm hoping it sort of increases my popularity a little bit. Maybe not. Like I said, they think it's two different people, so that is me. You know, I am no context. I would like to confirm I am no context. That's another one for him to use.
Next, I suppose my question after that was, Callum Smith, he's obviously one of these big names in boxing. I mean, he's seen Benavidez regain his WBC title. I mean, he said he wants to unify the division, but it seems like the champions are going up into division, to the heavyweight division. Kell's going up to light heavyweight. There's obviously Kovalev, bigger names, Beterbiev, Bivol, and all that are up there. If a bigger test or a bigger fight comes at 175, do you think Callum will jump?
I think eventually 175 is inevitable for him, but at the same time, the rumour mill with Callum Smith is he struggles to make 168. He doesn't. And one of his big benefits and advantages is his size at 168. So whilst he continues to make that healthily, he'll be staying there. But he also is in a stage where 2020, he's going to have got his mandatory out of the way. 2020 is about the career-defining fights. And if they have to come at light heavy, I'm sure he'll do that. It's difficult because I work with both guys, Ryder and Callum Smith. But if I'm wearing my Callum Smith hat, then I say, you fight John Ryder, you win, and we go to Anfield in May, and we do a unification fight with Billy Joe Saunders. We've also written to the WBC to say, what's happening? Because he's got the WBC Diamond fight. Last year at the convention, I pitched the idea of Benavidez fighting Callum Smith and to be ordered. Then he failed a drugs test, Benavidez. So it's all, but now Benavidez has won. He's got to fight Yildirim, which will probably be in December. Why don't you order Callum Smith against Benavidez? Because Callum Smith's been right up there. He's had 15 WBC sanctioned fights. So I feel like the WBC should be ordering Durrell against Callum Smith. I think that's a great fight. But we also have Billy Joe Saunders, which is a fight that can be made like that for Anfield. Big domestic fight, and a great fight as well. So I do want those guys to almost go a separate path, I have to be honest. But I have no problem making that fight if everybody's on board. And they are on board because they both want career-defining fights. They've both been treading water for maybe a little bit too long, where they want to jump in those big box office stadium fights. And that's what they've made their money almost, and they want that legacy now. They want those nights. and I will provide both those nights for Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders, and perhaps against each other.
How close, or I suppose, how serious is the Anfield sort of fight?
It's hugely serious. We went to see Liverpool Football Club about a month ago. Me, Callum Smith, and Adam Smith, who is a massive Liverpool fan. It's like, yeah. And he's one of the driving forces behind this, as is Sky. And I know that I go to these cities like Newcastle and Liverpool. So I love this city. I genuinely do. Newcastle, like the passion they have for boxing is on another level. I believe that if we stage an event at Anfield with Callum Smith in a unification fight, with probably Pricey in a massive heavyweight fight as well, Fowler Fitzgerald, Liam Smith against Jesse. I don't know. Like it's a night that this city would never forget, and they would get behind it like nothing else. That's the kind of night that these people live for. To remember those nights for the city. And I would like to. Well, I wouldn't just like to. I would love to do that at Anfield. I've done one at Goodison, which was one of the best nights of my life, and I want to do one at Liverpool as well. And I just feel that obviously he's got to beat John Ryder to do that. But that's what Callum Smith wants. Probably more than anything. Actually, probably more than unifications, more than millions and millions of pounds. He wants to box at Anfield. That's what he wants. So I'll be trying to deliver that for him if he can beat John Ryder.
I think Sky, I want you, Eddie.
Hold on, okay.
Yeah, so
Cool.
I was going to give you
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks very much for picking this up, Eddie, because I was kind enough to let Sky go first.
Nice of you to do that. I was going to let him do it anyway.
Boxing Social just jumped in as usual.
Got to let the big boys go first.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm always last.
Yeah.
I think my next question was going to be, obviously, at the weekend there, it was announced that Deontay Wilder and RUIZ ORTIZ was announced for November 23rd, I think it is.
Yeah.
So what was your thoughts on the whole fight?
Well, we've been waiting for thoughts on Wilder.
There's a clip.
It's the old chewing gum. Thoughts on the Wilder fight? Or was that what you asked?
Yeah, your thoughts on Wilder and ORTIZ and the whole.
Well, we've been waiting for it since May.
Yeah.
So, good to see it happening. Is it a pay-per-view fight? Guess it's up to the American public. Seems like everything's pay-per-view in America at the moment. I think Deontay will stop him inside 4 rounds. Good fight though. Mm-hmm. Good fight. I mean, first one was a great fight, and Deontay's always in exciting fights.
It was announced on the Porter versus Spence. There we go. Yeah, Errol Spence. Did you watch that fight? And what's your thoughts?
I caught up with Sunday morning. Great fight. Better fight than I thought it would be. But to be fair, Porter's always in good fights. Like, it's hard to look good against. I don't think Errol Spence looked great in that fight, and I don't know whether he's struggling at the weight, because I know he's been struggling for a long time. And he made some comments on social media about, I'm not blown up again, in between fights. So I think Errol Spence is beatable. I wasn't sure he was beatable before that fight, but maybe it was just Sean Porter doing a great job. So I just want to see Crawford against Spence. That's what I want to see. And I thought going into that fight, I probably favoured Spence, and now I probably favour Crawford. So I hope that fight gets made. If not, I'd like to see Spence against Pacquiao. I think that's a great fight as well. I know he might be fighting Danny Garcia, which is okay, but great fight, and great for boxing, because whenever there's a big high-profile fight, when it's a good fight, it helps everybody. It helps the sport, because I love everyone's buzzing, aren't they? Great fight we've got this week. Golovkin, Derevyanchenko. And it just saw a great fight this weekend. Can we see another one this weekend? So the more quality boxing, the better.
I don't know if you've seen the Twitter feed of Fox PBC. They put Kell Brook's prediction on it. He's basically said, the king is back, I'm coming down 147. What's your thoughts on Kell?
Well, I think Kell,
fight for against,
Kell's problem, no, I don't think so. Not at the moment. I think Kell's problem has always been, his discipline, his motivation. But when he is motivated, he's on it and he's firing. He's a great fighter. And at the moment, he's on it. And he's disciplined and he's motivated, so he's looking for that big fight. I think those PBC guys are going to keep everything nice and tight in house. And right now, Kell's profile needs to go up a notch to grab one of those fights. Whether that's by beating Amir Khan, whether that's by just fighting again. It's nearly been a year since he's fought. So, but Kell is a world-class welterweight. He beat Sean Porter, and it was only really the injury that he suffered after the Porter fight that derailed his career. That was such a big turning point. I really believe that if that hadn't have happened, you'd have seen him go and unify the division. That was his time. But that's the past, and he's in the gym, he's firing, he wants a big fight.
You mentioned the PBC keeping everything in house. Is there a slight worry, or is there a worry about Andy Ruiz fighting Wilder and then that was all the WB?
I think if Ruiz was to win on December 7th, I think they'd skip the Fury fight. You know, I think, of course, it's a lot easier to keep things in house. It's not boxing politics. It's just fact, right? But it's bad for boxing most of the time because there you've got Errol Spence against Crawford. That is the fight. Now, Aaron's made fights for Heyman before. Sit down and just make that fight. As a fan, I want to see it. You know, and obviously if Ruiz wins, then they'll try and make that fight. When AJ wins, you know, we'll be looking at it. Maybe we go and fight Fury, you know, at Wembley. Who knows? But right now, that focus is just December 7th.
Staying on Andy Ruiz, you've spoke about the media outlets here, but the news this morning that I saw was obviously the Mexican Olympic Committee have came across to him and asked him to be a part of the 2020 team. What's your thoughts on that? I
think you might have heard earlier, I said that there's about as much chance of that happening as me slimming down and you, I don't know, getting taller or growing a barnet, you know. So, great idea, sounds wonderful. But obviously, if he wins, he's going to be in a massive fight next year, and if he loses, he's going to be in a massive fight next year. So, unless the government come up with a load of money, which I don't think is the Mexicans' government style versus a Uzbekistan or a Azerbaijan, then very unlikely. And I actually don't think that pro fighters should be allowed to box in the amateurs. You know, you saw with Jolovov recently, who won the heavyweight knockout, the best heavyweight prospect in America. It weren't just a knockout, it was brutal. Can change your career. But you know, that kid's gone into that tournament, the American heavyweight, could have got a lucrative deal coming out as a pro. I mean, I would have, like, I'm telling you, I'm the guy who gives those contracts out. I would still sign him, but it would not be in the same level as to what I would have paid if he would have won the tournament or just lost on points. He got brutally knocked out by a guy who's 7 or 8-0 as a pro. It's different sports, it's different games. You know, you can't start mixing the two codes, in my opinion.
So there's no way Josh are going for a 2-time Olympic gold medal?
No, unless the money's right. I mean, you never would. No, I just think that it's dangerous. You know, even Josh going in now.
I know.
Again, you imagine him going in with an amateur heavyweight now. I mean, it's different sports.
I've got to ask as well. Also, Dennis Mama's boy. Douglin, he's came out and said, I'm Scottish, I say Douglin.
Yeah.
He's came out and said that he was offered the Billy Joe Saunders fight for the KSI Logan Paul undercard. Is there any truth in that?
He's someone we spoke to, but the WBO didn't want to sanction him as a fight. So I quite liked him. He's got a big mouth, can fight.
Billy's got a big
mouth.
Exactly.
No, it would have been good. So I just thought that was a good fight, but WBO said no.
Any progress on the opponent for Billy Joe?
Still working. I mean, he was probably the front runner that we were going to announce over the weekend. Unfortunately, WBO wouldn't sanction it, so now we look for another guy. And you know, Billy Joe's calling me every day asking, so I've got to pull it out of the bag and get something announced today or tomorrow.
Finally, before I let you go as a Scotsman, I've seen that Ricky Burns was spawned David Haney. Can you give me any intel on that? Was it good?
Just like you got the young buck who's trying to impress everyone and smash Ricky up. And then you've got Ricky Burns, who's a freeweight world champion, who's coming forward. You know, it was brilliant to watch. Two completely different fighters. Great work for Ricky because you know Devin's fast and you know Selby's fast as well. And great work for Devin because he's fighting a brilliant lightweight and a really experienced guy. So it was a joy to watch that one. Two great guys, and Devin had a great trip. You know, he loved being over here. Like,
the media and the fans,
it's a massive turnout at his workout. He couldn't believe it. You know, they don't realise how big boxing is in the UK. So Devin Haney had a great time.
And can you bring him over here for a fight then?
Yeah, I think the Campbell fight makes sense over here. It's just how big he gets in America, and you know how much money he wants.
Finally, I don't keep you much longer. I know Umo's going out for the Golovkin-Kurenchenko fight.
So I'll be there going out tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Much longer again.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.